it recording on both on mine?
It's coming. Hello there. I'm Catherine Brown Ramsperger, author of the award-winning The Shores of Our Souls. I'm also an intuitive coach who founded Ground One and Step Into Your Story. Welcome to Story Hour. I created this monthly book talk to connect avid readers with gifted writers, and I'm so excited to introduce someone who does just that herself in the biggest possible way. Her name is Kathy L. Murphy, and everybody probably knows her who's here because everybody knows her. And she is the Pulpwood Queen. Welcome, Kathy. I'm so honored to have you here.
I'm thrilled to be here. And you have an executive director, so I'm thrilled to meet her too. This is
Haley Mullis. Yes.
It's nice to meet you. Thank you.
I don't know how I could do story hours without Kaylee.
It's such a pleasure. I enjoy every single one. So we can't wait to speak with you today.
great.
So a little bit about Kathy. In January 2000, she opened the only hair salon bookshop in the country, Beauty and the Book, after she'd been downsized out of a book publisher's rep position. Another casualty of the shifts in publishing as the century changed, which we all went through, became a huge gift to the book world. It was a job Kathy adored, but she soon realized it wasn't what God had planned for her, and what God did have in plan for her is what we're going to talk about today. It's about a beauty shop, a bookshop, a book club, but oh, so much more. And I want to tell just a little anecdote that is in one of these beautiful books. You can tell they're well worn and that I have read them over and over. Kathy, you were invited to a local book club once. When they said you were a guest, not a member, you had your own plan. So Kathy started an inclusive book club, in her own words, one where underdogs, misfits, and real readers could join and not be beholden to unspoken book club rules. More than a quarter century later, Queen Cat rules the biggest inclusionary book club in the world, where tiaras reign and the only rule is to read good books. And thus, the International Pulpwood Queens and Timber Guys Book Club was born. It's the only book club that involves all of its members in everything it does. And if you become a member, you'll be involved too. Their authors even wait tables during the annual book club's girlfriend weekend. Kathy's a book lover, author, beauty expert, actor, artist, legend, and woman to be reckoned with. I tell the truth. Please welcome her along with me to Story Hour.
Well, I bow to the feet of these wonderful interviewing queens. So thank you so much for inviting me.
It's wonderful to have you here. It's my honor. I've dreamed of this, and now it's true in our tiaras. So I'm hoping you'll tell us a little bit about how you grew up championing the underdog. You have stories about why you are like you are. Yes. And I would love to hear. You know, and we would all love to hear.
A lot of people see my book and they think it's a funny book, but it really came from a very serious place, because I grew up in rural Kansas in the Flint Hills of the southeast corner of the state, and with two sisters, and to all appearances we look like the beautiful family. You know, we had the nice house, we belonged to the country club, our parents drove a Cadillac, and it was everything that, you know, people dream of in mid-America or whatever. But what a lot of people didn't know was that my parents were always in arrears with each other. They were fighting and arguing, and somehow it kind of, the trajectory of it brought us into the picture, especially when we got in our teens, and it was not a real fun place to be. So I left home at 17 and went to college, and I never looked back. But I will tell you that I love and adore my parents. I just think that they probably weren't the best suited for each other. And unfortunately, when people make bad decisions, you know, it trickles, filters down. So, and we often repeat their mistakes. But I didn't know how to deal with it when I was a child because I was the oldest, so I was expected to make my younger sisters be, mind. And I was very shy. I was an introvert. I, would cry if people spoke to me. People don't believe that now, but I found that I could escape into books. And so when I say books save me, I'm not kidding, because I know a lot of people that grow up with trauma, and they even call it post-traumatic stress syndrome now.
Yeah, they
When you
do.
grow up with that fighting and the battles, um, people look for ways to escape, and oftentimes it's in alcohol and drugs. And I have my days when I drank, when I was younger, trying to escape, but mostly I escaped into books. And because of reading books, I found that there were others like me. I can remember exactly the moment when I saw first the film To Kill a Mockingbird, and I saw Scout, because I was a real tomboy as a kid. And it's ironic, my mother was the beauty queen. It's ironic to me now that I've made my living most of my life creating beauty by doing hair and makeup, but I just want to put everything beautiful out into the world, and I see it as an art form. But what happened was I just became a voracious reader, and I found other people that like to read too. In fact, my childhood friend, who was one of the biggest readers in the school, is now the head librarian in my hometown library. So
Wow.
I had a great childhood. I spent most of it outside in nature, escaping into books, acting out, all the adventures of Tom Sawyer and Treasure Island. And my favorite was Tarzan, because I didn't want to be Jane, because I kind of saw her as a wimp. I wanted to be Tarzan, and I wanted to be able to swing through the trees. And we pretended that our dog was Cheetah, the cheetah below. We even taught the dog how to climb a ladder into the treehouse, my sisters and I. But I found that, I have absolutely no athletic prowess. I'm the last kid that was picked in the race for the softball games.
Me too.
Nobody ever wanted, and there's nobody in the country that is championing people who are invisible. We're basically invisible people. And I thought, who better, when I started my book club, to crown us the beauty within queens? Because to me, it's more important. I mean, I doll up for this stuff because, it gets, you want to be professional. But I think it's more important what you are on the inside. So the books I look for are the stories that entertain, but they also enlighten and, in a non-preachy manner, educate us. And they help open us up to other worlds, other cultures, other peoples, other faiths, other people that don't have faiths, and recognize that the one thing that we have in common, as all of us little underdogs do, is that we all want to love and be loved. We all have the same basic needs, no matter where you live in the world, of food, shelter, water. And I think it's really important that, what I started with 6 complete strangers in my hair salon in Texas called Beauty in the Book has now grown to be, we're not the largest book club in the world. We're the largest meeting and discussing, because we bring our authors into the picture. Because
And why wouldn't you? I mean, why would you not want that,
well, I think it's important that we have conversations, and now even more so with COVID, because if it wasn't for these Zoom meetings that I'm having every week, I would probably be stark raving mad, because I've grown up to be a very social person. I found my voice, and I think when you find your passions, that the gifts that you're given, I mean, these are gifts that are given to us.
use it? Yeah, you're supposed to use your
use your gifts, and you want to be in service to others. When I first started, I wanted to graduate from college because my parents put that upon me from a very young age. They didn't finish, and there was always some, I don't know, they always felt bad that they never finished, and they were the first ones in their family to go to college. But my dad dropped out his last semester of school because he was married to my mom, and my mom got pregnant with the third child. And my mother, she went only 2 years, and she decided to go to Hollywood to get discovered as an actress, and it didn't work. But my dad drove out there.
There's a great story, maybe two great stories about
Yeah,
that.
he drove out there, and I thought it was the most romantic story in the world. I never could understand why they fought so much. And I think it's really because when people lose their dreams, it really is, those lost dreams are just really, they have so many repercussions. So I, because my mother encouraged me and my father to get an education and everything, I have to thank them, because my mother provided, wonderful resources for us when we were children. She got us all the encyclopedias and books from around the world, and she encouraged education. She didn't really help us with anything, but her style and both my mother and dad were big on education. So I, became a hairdresser, and I was embarrassed by it, because all of my friends in my class, and I'm not kidding you, went on to one became a brain surgeon, no kidding, pharmacist, college professors, just all these really professional things that,
Professional and left-brained, very
right.
left-brained. I mean, what you do is a work of art. Not just you, but all people that deal with making people look like themselves, only ta-da,
Yes. And, we can all put our best foot forward no matter where we come from in life. And I was embarrassed by it. But after years of being in service to others, I feel like that is the biggest gift I've probably done in this world, because when somebody leaves your shop and they're smiling and they say, I feel so much better about myself. There's nothing better in the world for me. And then if they have a book or two under their arm,
I was thinking that too.
it just makes sense,
More kids you want, then I cannot wait for my next haircut. It's very soon. I wish it could have been this week, but
well, that's why my hair's so long, is because I've been home in this cabin in the woods for
mine too. Mine is not long.
Girlfriend Weekend 2020, and I actually had my daughter cut the back of it off, and I swear she cut a foot. I go, I just wanted to trim. She goes, Mom, it's free. I'm going, whoa, it's up here. It grew back down, but I usually, when I'm out and about, send a ponytail, a messy bun, I'm on the go. And I just feel like this is the book club chapter for people who haven't found their voice. And one of the things we do in sharing our stories of our authors is we share our stories too. And I found that people are finding their callings. I mean, I had one of my authors tell me, I went to graduate school because I saw you go back to college at 59. And I thought, why not? So then I realized, now I'm being looked to as an example, but we all are. I mean, if we just realize, if somebody just told me when I was a kid and acting out and stuff, do you want your children to know about this someday? Somehow that changes everything. But I have to say that I have two of the strongest, fiercest daughters in the world who actually now they're my mentors because they're fearless. And I do believe it's because I read to them before they were born. I still read to them, took them to museums, to science discovery places. We went on adventures. We traveled and encouraged them to travel the world, because when I was in high school, I was not happy at home, and nobody was really paying any attention to me at school. I was trying to tell people, but I didn't know how to tell, and I wanted to go to a Swiss boarding school. I don't know where I got that idea. I don't know. I have no idea. But I was determined that I was going to go to a Swiss boarding school. And I told my parents, and they go, do you know how much that costs? I go, please, can I go? And I'm telling you, I watched a movie last night called Burn Your Maps. And when I got done with that film, tears were just rolling down my face because I was that kid the kid in the movie, he thinks he's originally from Mongolia, and he's a really little boy.
Wow.
And it was just,
Oh,
and I
wow.
thought, he had the coolest mom in the world. I'm going to tell you, he had a very cool mom. And I won't give any of the story away, but if you get a chance, I find that whether storytelling is in books, or if it's in songs, or if it's in films, or if it's in like my painting that's behind me, we're telling stories in everything that we do. And we're our own cover of our book. So
Right.
that's why I cleaned out my closet this spring and I got rid of everything that was normal, because I'm not. And the only thing I have now in my closet are my own designed clothes based on my art and costumes. And I think, I'm 64, I'm going to wear whatever I want. And I get so mad when I see these articles that say, if you're over 40, don't wear this. And I go, this is my big question. Who made up that rule?
Nobody, and nobody listens to it anymore. I want to say one thing about your daughters, and that is the reason that they're fearless is one reason, not the only reason, is that they had you as their mother, because I see you as fearless too. So I wanted to say that. And I also wanted to say everybody should be able to wear whatever they want to. Finally, this new generation is doing it. And we have given them permission to. So I think it's great. So talk to us about your art. I want to hear about that too.
Well,
Haley, if you would just put the link to the new site in.
Yeah, my new website is up, the Kathy L. Murphy art website. And I have to thank Sean Fargety, and who's a podcaster, and Mandy Haynes, who really helped me negotiate the details on it. And I got it up. It didn't take me as long as I thought, but I just posted new stuff today. But my art is because when I was a little kid, I was a colorer. I love color. And, a lot of people say you can't be an artist if you color. And I go, I disagree with you. You learn hand and eye coordination by coloring within the lines. But we had in my neighborhood a young man who was just first married, and he was going to Emporia State University. And she was a student teacher at the elementary school. And his name was James Brothers. And he just lived a couple doors down. And he started giving my mother art lessons. And my mother was a painter, and she painted in oils, and her work was beautiful. And I thought, that's what I want to do. I want to take my colors and learn how to work in those mediums. And so interesting, because James Brothers became one of the most celebrated artists from the state of Kansas. He was a professor at the Kansas University and went on to create memorials of Korean soldiers in bronze. They're in Washington, D.C. Yeah, and he was my neighbor. Can you imagine? But I can remember him saying, throw those coloring books away and get you a pad and start drawing. And so I kind of started doing that. And at first I drew fashions, then I drew clouds, then I drew trees. I became fascinated with drawing. And then when I got in the 5th grade, I had an Auntie Mame who was my teacher. Her name was Mrs. Margaret Bolden, and she was a world traveler. And she wore capes and scarves and big jewelry. This is Kansas. Okay.
So you weren't dressing in any unique way at that point, right?
No, I was just like that kid in the movie Burn Your.
That's so great.
Because I wore pretty crazy things to school. And because my mother never got up in the morning, and she never saw us off to school because she slept in, we had to get ourselves off to school, so I could wear whatever I want. And I can remember my favorite outfit. I talk about this in my book. I had a Sears velveteen jumper. It was uncut corduroy kind of velvet.
I remember that.
And I wore a Peter Pan white little shirt. And my grandmother gave me a rhinestone cross necklace. I still remember that necklace. But I wore it with purple knee socks and see-through go-go boots. And then my coat was green plaid with a shawl that went over around the shoulder. And I swiped from my mother's closet a real leopard beret that had a python band. And I would wear that to school. In fact, one of the days I went to school, I wore her diamond wedding ring. I just did crazy. And my teacher was so concerned, and I was afraid she was going to tell on me. So I put it back. But I love rhinestone jewelry, and, I really beetle boots, all kinds of weird shoes. That was me as a kid. And I was made fun of a lot too. But I didn't care because I was happy wearing those things. And I'm still, when I got in high school, I was the only girl in my senior class that wore a midi dress to graduation. That's back when we wore the micro mini
Right. Yeah.
pastel dresses under, and I wore a black midi dress that had roses all over it. And they go, I think I was goth before there was goth.
Well, but you were on the head of a trend, because
I,
that happened right after.
yeah.
Right after.
And
Because
then,
I'm a couple years younger than you, not much. I
well,
remember wearing middies in 1978.
yes.
Yeah.
And I can remember when this was 74. So you can imagine how
Said
weird.
you're heading a trend.
And I had platforms on. If you remember the first platforms,
Oh yeah.
I'm telling you, I go to school and they go, what have you got on, Murphy? I wore prairie dresses, and I wore a gunny sack dress with a, big floppy hat to prom. People was just like, who wears hats to prom? But, I've always been that way. And now I realize that that's what people really look forward to. When I went back home to Kansas, um, I can't remember what it was. I went home to church, and I was the youth director and the choir director, and all those little old ladies that I knew from church were still there, and they just came running up to me and they said, Kathy, part of the reason that we love coming to church when you were the choir director for the little kids, because we just wanted to see what you had on that day. And I wore boas and feathers in my hair. I mean, I didn't have really colored hair back then, but I wore, jumpsuits. Who wore jumpsuits? I wore a lot of, people wore dresses to church, but they said, you haven't changed a bit. And I said, no, I'm still pretty much, I change my hair color all the time. I just get bored very easily. And I see myself as kind of a canvas. So I'm always changing my outfits, but you'll see me in lots of costumes. So.
And you are creating all the time. It's always something new. And everybody look at that link. You'll see all of that is what she sold, I believe that link is. And if you go to if you click that other link, it is what you can buy. And it is, you are so prolific. You must just paint all the time.
I juggle all these balls. I paint,
Right.
I write, I work on the Pulpwood Queen stuff, helping Mandy with the magazine. Just, we've got so many things because I get bored really easily. And they go, well, getting bored means you're a boring person. I don't think I'm boring. I just think that I have probably attention deficit disorder. I don't know. But I do know that when I focus.
Well, good for us. Because
focus on something. But it's interesting. I've done art all my life, but that teacher, she asked me to do the backdrops. Remember the projectors that they had where you put those little plastic sheets and it shot it up on the wall? Well, she asked me to create the backdrops for our Christmas plays, and then the posters and different things. And I had a knack for it. I just loved doing it. I could do it the rest of my days. But I had a teacher in junior high that criticized everything I did, and she was the high school and junior high teacher. And she would never give me, no matter how hard I created all my whimsical art, she'd never give me anything more than a B. And I was very discouraged. So I didn't take any art through high school. But when I got in college, that's the first thing I signed up for. Yeah. And I've been to 7 colleges. It took me 43 years to graduate. And it's only since I got my degree in a Bachelor in Fine Arts and minor in art history that I've ever tried to sell anything. And my stuff sells really well. I'm just like,
I can see why.
well, and I've got something
Congratulations.
I'm sending you shortly. So what I want to say is to people out there that have a teacher discourage you, it's just one opinion. Because when I went to college, I had a professor tell me, he said, I had my partner that sat next to me in metalry class would just get so mad. He goes, "How come you get A's and I work for hours and hours?" And but I got A's because I created things that nobody'd seen before. You
Mhm.
know, there's certain type of art, and I think you become almost like a craftsman, where you repeat pottery and things like that. And that is something that I could never do because it's just too hard to make everything so perfect. I work with slabs, hand built ceramics in college and collages. I've got them all over my house. I feel like everybody has their own way of creating art. And if you're an art teacher, it is your job to help them find their way of expressing themselves. Because
It's
people go, I
beautiful.
can't draw.
You've
Well,
changed somebody's life with that
well,
statement today. And by the way, I agree. And I think that's every teacher's job to a certain degree. If
I do.
somebody's in the back and feels dismissed or invisible or I can't do this, they're not going to learn.
So I'm trying to show people at 64 that yes, you can be a viable artist, even though I was
Mhm.
discouraged or basically ignored. I'd raise my hand and nobody would call on me. Or I had a few professors though that really took an interest with me, and one of them has become a really good friend. So um, I
You
I
have
just
lots of
I
those.
just want to encourage people, and all of us can mentor to others. What is the point of doing a bad review on a book? What is
I
the
don't
point?
know. I don't know.
I
And
don't know, because if all we put out is good reviews, those are the books we're going to read. But everybody who writes a book spends a lot of time writing a book. I would never give anybody a bad review because, quite frankly, somebody else may love it. And it's the same way with art. I have art all over my house and my friends, and people go, "Oh, that is so weird and strange." I love it. I said, I love the way they see the world. I think we need to be less judgmental. And I think that's what reading does. When we read books like your book, what I read right here, when you read books that show you a perspective, you get to walk in their shoes, just like the To Kill a Mockingbird quote. You walk in their shoes for a while and you see what it's like. And then, you need to go one step further. You need to go there.
you do.
I don't know anything about Beirut. I don't know anything about the Middle East. Even though I was married to a Muslim man, my first marriage, I was married to a Muslim man I met in college, and he he was his father was Italian, his mother was from Ukraine, but he was born in North Africa. And people go, "You married an African?" And I go, "Yeah." And they automatically they start going into these stereotypes,
And
and
everybody's different.
every
And we're all the same.
lump them all together. And I will tell you that I just discovered Joanna Lumley, who's a famous British actress, is doing these world travel programs going around the world. She did a 3-part series on India, going down the Nile to the source of the Nile. I'm telling you, the one that just blew me away. Well, there were 2 countries I'd never even heard of that I learned about, and now I want to go there. But I never knew she went to Iran. It was the most beautiful place, and
It's
it
a
was
gorgeous
like
country. I've never
beautiful
been to Iran, but
cities. And she was on a college campus, and the kids were all dancing and doing this cool stuff. And she's, in an interview, she said, "I was so shocked because all we hear is war, war, politics, politics." And this man saw her looking very puzzled, and he went up to her and he goes, "So what you're thinking, this isn't what I thought Iran was going to be, right?" She goes, "Yes." And he goes, "Don't pay any attention to all the politics and things the government puts out there. You have to go. He goes, this is a beautiful place and the people are really precious. You know, people are
It's
kind.
that way all over the Middle East, and what we see on the propaganda that is now the news machine is not necessarily what is happening here or there. So I want to take a break for everybody else to get a chance to ask you questions.
Oh, great.
And Kaylee is going to.
Oh my,
Yeah,
we got
they
people
are.
on board. Oh yeah.
Yes, we do. Hi, everybody. We have quite a handful of comments and questions today. So I'll start with the comments. We have a lot of hellos. We have hellos from Kathleen Rogers. She said she's here. It's good afternoon. Johnny Bernard. She says it's great to see both of you. Lucille, Dorothy, and Noelle Puglisi are in, and they're happy to be here. Robert, I don't want to butcher your last name, Robert, but it's Robert G. We'll go with that. Yeah, Robert, he says hello to you both. We have Shanessa. She says she's glad to be here. We have a hello from Mandy Haynes.
Hi, Mandy.
And yeah, Claire Fullerton says that she'll never tire of hearing your stories, Kathy. And Kathy Ramsperger, looking good. She has tiara envy, and she demands an audience close up of your tiara, Kathy.
Oh,
Oh,
Both of
okay.
you.
There's the tiara. Ta-da! Ta-da! I have to talk.
Mandy Haynes, who's on here, is my executive director, and she told me, you know, we need to do a Zoom meeting where we just show your collections because
Oh, I agree.
I have one from Alice Hoffman, Bryn McLean. I have one from Marianne Henry. I have been given tiaras, and you know, I need to find someplace. And Mandy goes, let's just do a show, a Zoom where everybody can see your collection. And I go, it's getting pretty big, but this is
Maybe
mine.
it's 2 shows.
This is mine from Margie Dilday, who heads up my West Monroe chapter. And it's so funny, when she bought it in Paris, she said, when I die, I'm going to leave this to you. And I said, oh my God, I have to wait that long? And about 3 or 4 years ago, she came to Girlfriend Weekend, and I rented this big bed and breakfast in Nacogdoches, and she stayed there with us. And she came in with this box, and I said, I opened it and I saw the tiara, and I said, oh my God, is everything okay? I was about to cry, and she goes, oh, I'm not dying. She goes, I just decided that you could wear it on your next book cover. So she went ahead and gave it to me, and I wear it all the time now.
It's so gorgeous. I commented on it when I first saw you. And the fact it's from Paris just makes me feel so honored that you wore your Paris tiara.
Yeah,
There's more to that story too, even than you're saying there. It is a
tell the
work of
story
art.
in my book.
Yeah, we have one question from Noelle Puglisi. Give me 1 second. I'm scrolling. There's a lot of comments here. So she's asking, and you sort of talked about this, but if you have anything else to elaborate, why is it so important to you that you wear unconventional clothes? And then she says ... and kudos to you for it. So
No, I would say that.
I don't know where it I guess my mother was a real fashionista. I mean, she really wore nice clothes. I mean, she shopped very expensive clothes, and she was, I guess I love that about her. And she always was trendy too. You know, I can remember back when the Gidget movies were out, she had a mini dress that had strips connecting the top with the skirt, and so her torso showed, and she'd wear it with these boots, and I just thought she was the coolest mom in the world, you know. And I guess that she didn't dress like anybody either. My dad would always say to me, no matter how many times, you know, I'd run into him, he'd go, what have you got on? And I don't know, it's just, I feel like I was invisible for so many years, you know. It's a way of, and if you have colored hair, young people talk to you all the time. Oh man, I love your hair. And I go, wow. And usually they have colored hair too. It's a great icebreaker. And, you know, when you become older, people they don't see you anymore. But if you've got blue, pink, purple hair, they think, cool. My daughter keeps trying to get me to get a tattoo. And I said, no, I get tired of things. I could just see me putting something on me and go, I'm done with that. Now what do I do? So won't be doing that. So anyway, that's why I wear the crazy clothes. And it brings a lot of attention to what I'm trying to say in the world, because it opens the conversation. I always tell people, it's like the show we're going to watch Saturday night. Robert Gwaltney and I are hosting our book and film club, and we're going to be watching Gypsy, Gypsy Rosalie. And they've got this scene in it with these strippers, and they go, you got to have a gimmick. If you have a gimmick, it just brings attention, like Dolly Parton. The higher the hair, the closer to God. Of course, she has some other wonderful assets, but those type of things brought attention to her to really do what she wanted to do, which was sing and songwrite and now promote literacy. And
use her assets. She used her assets, whatever works. Yeah.
So I tell people there's got to be some way that's going to make you stand out from the crowd. And I guarantee you, if you go anywhere with the tiara on, you're going to make friends. It always makes people go, they go, okay, you got to tell me. What's the story? Well, I'm a Pulpwood Queen. Or if a guy had on a crown, I'm a timber guy. What the heck is that? But I'll also tell you, it's an instant way to get to the front of I was in New York. I went to Rock Bottom's Remainder concert, and I had my Pulpwood Queens with me, and we all have matching leopard jackets that are rhinestone up and our tiaras on. And we came walking into it was standing room only. And people turned around, and they go, oh, they thought we were part of the act, so they let us go right up front to the stage. And we stood right in the front. And another time, International Paper took me to the Texas State Fair to storytell to kids in their booth. And I wore a tiara on my cowboy hat, and I had an all black outfit with bling. And they treated me to go see Leanne Rimes in concert with my family. And when we got there late. And when they saw me, I had a sash that said Pulpwood Queen. They go, oh, and everybody just let us go to the front of the stage. So you get great seats if you wear a tiara. I'm telling you, it works. It works.
It's a great tip. It's a great tip. Today, this is an honor of you. But if people will stop taking my tiaras in my family, I might wear them more.
Right.
So you were telling us about your work in progress. Can we have a little tiny blurb about what you're doing?
Well, what happened to me when I was really kind of getting to the height of really some great success. We've been on Good Morning American, Oprah Winfrey Show, and Oxygen Network, and all these Los Angeles Times, Houston Chronicle, all this stuff was happening. I went through a horrific divorce. And in my divorce in the state of Texas, you have to divide everything up equally. And because I'd opened my shop after we'd been married, I had to sell it. So that was my livelihood. And then that was devastating. I had to sell my home because half of it was his. And so I lost my home. And, I don't think anybody really knows how devastating a divorce is until you go through it. And I've been married 25 years. It was really hard for me to make that adjustment. And especially since I no longer had a place to live or a place to work. So I took a job here in Hawkins, Texas. My former minister helped me get interviewed for a youth director job. And then the ladies from the church helped me find this little cabin that I'm living in now. And I started over. And then my dad fell again. He'd been falling and brain bleeds. And long story short, I had to go back and forth to Kansas, and he died. And that was devastating to me because it's hard to lose, a marriage and then your father. And he left me just a little bit of money. And I thought, okay, what would he want me to do with it? And I thought, buy something, a trip. I'm going to go back to school. And so on my birthday, my 59th birthday, I drove the day before to the University of Texas and I told the guy in admissions I want to enroll. He goes, well, it doesn't quite work that way. You've got to send in all your transcripts. I go, I've done it. He goes, well, you need to do this online. I go, dude, let me tell you what happened to me this past year. I had to leave my church, my home, my shop. I told him the whole story and he goes, I guess we're going to get you enrolled in school. And the next day I was at that, printmaking class at 8 o'clock in the morning. And for 2.5 years, I worked every job I could think of. I'm running the Pulpwood Queens. I'm doing hair. I'm pet sitting, house sitting. I got a job at a clothing store to pay for gas and meals. I just worked myself to a frazzle, but I graduated in 2017 with my, magna cum laude and with my BFA in art. And I don't know how, I think it was a God thing. I had the Pulpwood Queens and my authors gave me a scholarship that got me through that last semester. I cannot thank my book club members and my authors enough because this was, and I'll tear up on this because this was a lifelong #1 bucket list dream. And when I walked the stage, it was 43 years from the time I started Kansas State University to graduating at UT Tyler. And my kids are cheering me on, my grown children. And my son-in-law got his master's the next day there. And both my daughter was working on her master's, the oldest and my youngest was in college there. All 4 of us got our picture taken with the president of the university because we had the whole family going to school there, all working our way through. I never borrowed a dime. And so I decided that the Pulpwood Queen went back to school. So that's the premise of the story, but it's so much more than that because
your books always are.
This is the story of persevering and never giving up and going, I don't know why I'm so emotional, but going after your dreams, because I really have dreamed big. But, I look at myself now and I think I look younger than I did when I was years ago. It's like the fountain of youth, people.
You're beautiful.
A lifelong learner has just, and I've found this freedom of all the people embracing me and saying, go, Kathy, go. And, I just cannot thank everybody enough because I feel like everybody went through school with me. So I'm going to be continuing to share my guide to life on things that I've learned. And the first time I wrote my first book, when my agent told me, we're going to call it the Pulpwood Queen's Tiara Wearing Book Sharing Guide to Life. And I just took a big sip of coffee and I spit it all across the computer and go, oh my God, not a guide to life, hun, because I've made more mistakes than anybody in the world. But I've since then learned the only way you learn or succeed in life is to have failures. If you always have successes in life, I've seen a lot of leaders in this world that were handed everything. It didn't do them any good. Earn it, people. Work hard. And when you walk across that stage, you have such a sense of, my God, I did this. You take pride in the struggle. And so I'm going to be talking about those things and I'm going to be telling a lot of stories. So I'm working on it now. I was hoping to get it done for 2022, but I want to do it right. It may be 2023. And besides, we're doing an anthology of all of our authors' stories, short stories. Mandy is putting this together and we're asking all our authors to submit short stories for this new anthology. And you can email Mandy at thepulpwoodqueen@gmail.com, mandy.thepulpwoodqueen@gmail.com, and it's up on our website. So that's what the book's about. And I really hope everybody will read this one because I cannot believe how many people in my book club have not read my book. And I go, if you read my book, you'll get it. And I know Johnny Bernhard, who's listening today, when she read my book in front of everybody at Girlfriend Weekend, nobody had ever done that for me before. And
So
I
let me do a little bit for you right now.
I have no words. No words.
So I really want to say that I want to say one thing before I read, and that is that Pulpwood Queens was an inspiration for you. And one of my when I came along this quote, I thought, of course, it's Ursula Le Guin,
Oh, yeah.
because there are all these beautiful quotes from you.
I collect them. Yeah.
And then there was the one, and I want to read that one. She says, the unread story is not a story. It is little blocks on wood pulp. Everybody, you know, paper is made out of pulpwood.
Right.
The reader reading it makes it a live thing, a story, makes it live. And that's what I would say is the theme of your book. It's a living kind of story. So a story about Pulpwood Queens. The wonderful thing about Kathy's writing is that it's just like she talks, and she goes from story to story to story. So it's difficult to pull something out, but I'm going to do my best. In January 2000, Beauty in the Book, the only combination beauty salon and bookstore in the country, and maybe even the world, opened its doors. Thanks to my king and prince, Daddy and Jay, we were ready for business. My crazy little venture succeeded beyond my wildest dreams. If someone had said to me back then that in 5 years I would move Beauty in the Book from my rural home to a historic house in downtown Jefferson, Texas, I would have said, no way. If someone had told me that my book club, the Pulpwood Queens of East Texas, which started with 6 brave women, would grow to chapters running all across the United States and many foreign countries, I would have told him, you're flat crazy. If someone had told me I would work with companies like Redken, an international paper, to promote literacy in communities throughout East Texas, that I would get to hang out with the writers who have for so long been my idols, and the icing on the cake, that I would make an appearance on Good Morning America with Diane Sawyer and Charlie Gibson, or see myself flashed on the screen during the Oprah Winfrey Show, I would have looked him straight in the eye and told him it was plum D nutso. And yet, these and so many other wonderful things have happened since we opened Beauty in the Book. There's another part. I can tell you that I married for love, not money. I may be a queen, but I was never a princess. You know the expression, necessity is the mother of invention? Isn't that what life is like for most of us? Like most women today, I have to work to help contribute to our family's day-to-day living. But I like working, and I like having my own money, and working gives me a feeling of self-worth. I figure that if I am working, I need to do something that my girls will see as important. You can talk until you're blue in the face about how you should do this or how you should do that. I just happen to believe that children learn more by your actions than your words. I want them to see that you can pursue your passion and be rewarded too with things far greater than the almighty dollar. You say also, throw yourself into good work and good things will come to you. Don't expect anything, and only then will the rewards for a job well done be yours. And then don't fall into the trap of thinking that success means having a big paycheck and the corner office, a big McMansion and a fancy car, or finding your 15 minutes of fame. Every day since I opened Beauty in the Book has been a blessing. I may not have much money, but I am doing what I love, so I am rich in life. I've got plenty of riches: my faith, family, friends, my Pulpwood Queens, my books, and the deep satisfaction I get from promoting literacy in communities around the world. You said country at the time, but it is around the world now. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. And then you listed your top 15 books of all time.
Yeah.
Every chapter has a section like this. And that I wish I could read every single paragraph in this book live, because
Well,
it's full of wisdom and it is funny, but you have a beautiful way of making us laugh through your tears. And I'm not the only one that thinks so, because Pat Conroy, ever heard of him, said Kathy L. Murphy is a natural born storyteller and the best friend a writer and a reader could have. And Kaylee and I were just talking before you came on, Kathy, about John Berend. Is that the way you pronounce his last name?
Barrett.
Berend. And he wrote Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil, which is just an amazing book. It's an enrapturing book. Yeah. A riotously funny portrait of Southern womanhood, which is to say, it's about hair, leopard print tights, fake furs, book clubs, family crises, and food. Mainly, though, this book is hilarious, warm, and insightful. I loved it. And it's also full of lessons. Every lesson that you had up until basically the Pulpwood Queen went to school is in this book. And their recipes and stories. And as Johnny would say, it's all about the story. So thank you for that beautiful book.
Thank you. You know, it took me 6 years to write that, because my kids were little at the time, and I was juggling them and all their school activities, all the things from church. You know, we were in community theater together, my kids and I, Girl Scouts, you know, youth group, and 6 years. And it's going to be even longer since, you know, my next book comes out. But, you know, it's not about getting a book every year.
You've got your anthology.
That was written by all my authors, okay? And that was
have an intro, though, that is just
amazing. And that was published by Brother Mockingbird. And we have some wonderful friends of mine that, you know, are authors that I've become, you know, just admire so much, like Robert Hicks did the introduction, and Jonathan Hout of the Pat Conroy Center did the afterword, and Nicole Sides is one of my authors that is also an artist that did the cover, and she did that the very first. I said, what do you want me to do? And I said, you know what, I'm gonna leave it up to you. You know, when you create art, you want to put your own spin on things, just like filmmakers want to put their own spin on a story. She came up with that. I just thought it was perfect. And I said, is that supposed to be me? And she goes, well, and I said, I'm not that thin. Thank you. I said, I'm not that thin. She goes, well, yeah. So anyway.
You are that thin.
No.
I'm not going to argue with you, but I don't think that is a tiny petite.
Well, I go up.
You're tall. People don't know that when they just see you on Zoom. You're tall.
It's true. I'm 5. Well, I was 5'8" and a half. I think I've shrunk, but
haven't we all?
Know, I'm always been considered a large girl, you know, and I was the second tallest in my class. And you know, when I used to wear those heels that we used to wear, I remember this guy said to me one time, he goes, damn, you're tall. I probably was 6 foot because I had on, you know, these wedgies that were, but you know, I am what I am, and you know, and I stick to my stories. But I think telling of the stories is what connects us and creates the community and this tribe of readers. And so what I look for is stories that haven't been told before, from perspectives I haven't heard before. They have to be well written, and they have to, you know, they have to be entertaining and enlightened. And there's so many books out there that are just repeating of other books. So I get a lot of great books. If you could see the mounds and stacks of books behind me.
There are, everybody. I've seen them.
There's so many books that are so similar to books that we've picked before. I go, please don't send me any more Queen books, because there's been a million Queen books. And what I'm looking for now, and which has opened up our world. We've always been global and diverse, and I've always picked books from other countries, like The Canal House by Mark Lee, Eat, Pray, Love by Elizabeth Gilbert. I've always loved stories of other countries, but it wasn't until this year that I decided that I put the international. I mean, we've always been international um, on there. And the simple thing by putting that one word in front of our title has changed the whole
People feel included probably because
Well,
they
it's
were
all
thinking, well,
included.
this isn't, I know I went to a festival, a book festival a decade ago, and there were a lot of British people, there were British writers there, and there were a lot of Arab writers there, and there were a lot of Eastern European writers. It was right after Bosnia, so there were a lot of books coming out.
Where was this book festival? I want to go.
It was at the Kennedy Center, but it was just once. It was just once. I hope they do it again. And they said, oh my gosh, you shouldn't, why are you here, right? You've got it made in America. And so it shows that the communication needs to open. We need to share more books from other parts of the world, and that's what you're doing.
Wait till you see the list that Mandy and I are putting together, because we're both reading the books. That's why we asked for a copy to be sent to Mandy and one to me. And she may read one ahead of me, or I may read one ahead of her. I go, okay, stop. You got to read this one. And then before we announce all these books, we're going to go through them one by one and just really, we really want it diverse, and we want it both men and women authors and everything in between. We want the world to know that everybody has a story and everybody should write it, because unless you put down your story to words, it's a library lost to family and friends. And if you don't write it down, somebody else could tell your story a whole lot different, and they do it every day. So I'm a big fan of memoirs and autobiographies, and I always put a lot of them in as our bonus books. But this year, we're just getting more books too. I'm already, here it is just May, and I think I've gotten 1,000 books. So, and I want to tell all the people that are listening out there, if you hear this, if you think I can read 1,000 books in a year, you're crazy. Last year, I think I read 300.
You tell them, Kathy.
400 books.
It's amazing, right?
Sometimes it takes me, I look at every book that's sent to me. I may not get to it the first year. In fact, Kathleen Rogers is here. She was in my book club for 4 years before I worked her into the program. Are you serious about reading in books? That we want serious readers, serious writers, but we don't take ourselves all that seriously. We want to have fun, because I don't know about you, but if it isn't fun anymore, I'm not doing it. I just refuse. I've worked hard my whole life about doing a lot of things I didn't want to do. This is something I do want to do, and it better be fun. So that's why I dress up for book and film club. And I've decided, I'm going to tell this announcement because this is exclusive.
Ooh.
I used to have, when my book club met in my house, I would do the table in a theme of the book. So I've decided now I'm going to pick a character from the book, and I'm going to try to emulate the character of the book for each time we share an author's book for our online book club, because people are really liking me dressing up in these costumes. And now that I've got all my other clothes out of there and all these costumes ready to go, I mix and match, and I can pretty much be from anywhere in the world, because I've collected, and keep sending them to me, people, because make sure it's plus size. But I love to wear these clothes, and I tell people I'm not being culturally disappropriate. I'm celebrating the other cultures and people of the world. And that's what I love about the Joanne Lumley travels around the world. Everywhere she goes, she's always buying whatever they're wearing, and she puts it on. I go, oh my God, I've got to meet her in person. I just love her. And, I have heroes. I look for those visionaries. I mean, everybody knows on Facebook that I'm in love with Shah Rukh Khan and everything that he's doing. But I love Dolly Parton.
Indian actor.
Love Pat Conroy. I love Joanne Lumley. I look for those people that are making the world a better place. And that's what all these books are doing. They're making a world a better place, whether we're reading, you know, Shores of Our Souls. And I did not know where that title came from. And I saw just today, that was one of my mother's favorite books.
Mine too.
Yeah.
Too.
So but I just forgotten that.
And he's Lebanese. I went to where his home was.
Oh, so
mountains of Lebanon.
One of these days.
Yeah. Well, let's just all cross our fingers that there's peace and we can all go. It could be a Pulpwood Queen's visit. So I want to invite everybody to read more. I wish we had a whole bunch more time because I would share what people said about Pulpwood Queen's weekend. And I will at the very end. And buy these books, buy Kathy's art. I want to end with Julie Cantrell and what she said about Pulpwood Queen's weekend. Imagine a magical place that's a little bit Mardi Gras, a little bit Oz, and a little bit Willy Wonka. Sprinkle generous doses of laughter, hugs, Wild West barbecue, sweet tea, and a charitable fundraiser. With that, you might have a sense of what happens at a girlfriend's weekend, but it would still be wise to experience it for yourself because it's quite like the Grand Canyon or Machu Picchu or the Seven Wonders of the World. It can't really be captured by photographs or essays or even told in the best legends. Like anything worth its weight around the campfire, Pulpwood Queen's Girlfriend Weekend is Texas as it gets, with the kind of enchanted spin that only Kathy L. Murphy could master. So please, everybody, join Pulpwood Queens and join us.
I just can't help it. I'm a crybaby. I can't help it.
Beautiful. It's beautiful because you want to have fun. We want to have fun. And we want to have fun telling our stories. And that's what you do for us and have done for the world. And
why this book came about?
How?
Well,
I think I know, but I want people to know. I want everybody to know.
When Pat Conroy died, you know, everybody got together. Jonathan Hote and Nicole Seitz decided that they would do a book, Our Prince of Scribes. And I think nearly 70 of us wrote chapters for that book. You should read my book. I actually said an F word in there, but it's only because that's what Pat Conroy told me. I always tell the truth. But they wrote this book, and the stories were beautiful. And, you know, of course, I thought I was the only one that had this unique experience with Pat Conroy, but the stories were beautiful. And it's one of the highest honors.
A very special relationship with Pat Conroy
in that book. But the reason why I did this book is I didn't want to wait till I died to hear what people think about me. I wanted to know. And it all began with Claire Fullerton. She wrote a story about coming to her very first girlfriend weekend, and it was in Southern Writers Magazine. And I go, that's what people think when they come to my weekend? Because I don't know. I mean,
read it, people, because you'll find out what we do, and you'll find out a lot about Kathy, and you'll find out about all these amazing authors.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And we're all on equal footing there. Like, I wrote a blog this week that said, I thought it would just be like any DC writers. You come up, you kind of bow to the writer, they sign the book, you might get to ask one question, and you're so happy, right? And that does happen at a weekend. You get a signed book if you want one. But the hairball, I mean, if you get all the way to the hairball without talking like a real girlfriend, to a famous author. You're going to do it there. So it's all in here. And I wish I could read that live too.
Well, and I have to give credit to Johnny Bernhard too, because, you know, it's all about the story. I use it almost on everything I close out. It was Johnny who wrote the story in here. That's where it came from. And, you know, you just like my friend Jennifer Anglin gave me the name for my book or for my shop, Beauty in the Book. She goes, well, it just makes sense. It's a beauty shop bookstore, Beauty in the Book. You know, I try to give credit to people who, you know, I didn't get here by myself. It's all of you out there listening and who are in my book club and who are my authors. We're all doing it holding hands together. This is your book club. And you need to read the story because these are all the authors wrote all these stories. I'm so proud of this book, and it hasn't sold very well because of COVID. And I know when I get back out, it'll do well.
That's
But
one reason I wanted to do today, because people need to know about this book. People need to know about the Pulpwood Queens. They need to know about you, and they need to know about this book. We don't have much time left, but oh boy, it's like an Academy Award list of authors that wrote essays for this anthology. And yes, I had a few chosen, but I want people to click this link, and I want them to see you, and I want them to know about this. I want all my people to know about it. So I'm going to close, but I would love to have last words of wisdom for you. I'm going to share my tea bag wisdom, which is always part of everything that I do here on my lives, and I love it. You don't have to read it. I just always show it.
I don't have my readers on. What does it say?
You are unlimited.
Yeah.
And that, cheers to you, Kathy L. Murphy. Yeah, it's very true.
I should have brought out my mug today that you gave me. I've got the one my daughter gave me that's got this little crown on it from Starbucks. But anyway, thank you so much.
You've got the right mug.
I feel like this is your life. You know how they always bring the person on that, that shows you how old I am, and then have surprise people come on and, you know, say things about them, and then we'd all have a good cry.
Well, we'll really have to do that one too. Of people like showing up at your door.
When we get back,
with tiaras.
We're having our week, you know, January 10th through the 16th, and it's online again this year because convention centers are not opening up yet. Not everybody's vaccinated. You know, we got to give it another year, but hopefully in 2023, we'll be back all together. The hairball will be back. We're going to have a lot of fun this year. We're planning some special things. So thank you all for sticking with me. We're going into our 21st year, y'all, and everybody get everybody back on board. So many people have let their memberships expire during COVID. And if you want to be a part of this, you know, come back. Thank you, Kathy. I cannot thank both of you girls enough for taking time out of your busy lives to share this. I'm pretty humbled by the whole experience. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, you deserve to be shared all over the place.
Thank you.
And it's my honor to be able to be one of the people to do it.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. I want to ask Kaylee if there's any last pressing question that people have asked that we need to take care of. And if not, I'm going to say my goodbyes.
Okay. We have some questions. We have one from Noelle Puglisi. And she's asking, why do you think people don't see us when we're older? That's when you were talking about,
that would be
you were answering her first question. And then we have another one from Johnny Bernard, but I can read that after
Well,
you answer.
I just want to say quickly to Nicole, I think it's because we don't value age anymore. Other cultures do. I mean, if you go other places, if you know you're an elder, or if you're, you know, of a grandmother or grandfather, the wisdom. I mean, one of my best friends, author Joseph Marshall III, wrote a book, Tales of My Grandfather, and he's Lakota. And so it's important in other cultures. We need to bring back the importance of the knowledge of a life well lived. And you know, I don't spit my coffee anymore about the guide to life. I have something to say, and I hope young people listen to it. But I think that's why. I think we've put no value. Everything is youth oriented, but I think the tide's about to turn because the youth are important. They are leading the way. And if anybody doesn't think these kids aren't doing great things, you need to go back
Look
to college.
around you. Yeah.
They mentored me all the way through. The kids did. So I cannot thank the young next generation enough. And I see it in my own children, and I see it in you, Kylie. I see it. It's happening. So that's my answer to that question.
Thank you. That's an inspiring answer. And then our last question from Johnny Bernard is, she's asking, what is your writing process, Kathy? Early morning, evening, same time every day, or do you wait to hear the muse calling? I read your first book the month I was made a Pulpwood Queen. It came as a gift for joining. It's a great read in its honesty and courage in living life to its best, no matter where you begin.
Wow. Well, I try to write something every day. I go through spouts where I get caught up with the book club or I get caught up with the art. I've got a big gallery show coming up. So they kind of get on the back burner. But once I get through, I got the website up. We've got the book club list well going. We've got the magazine going. We're getting ready to launch some other really cool projects. And so stay tuned. We have another product we're going to be packaging with our books. That's very exciting. I wish Mandy was here to talk about it, but we'll do a special announcement on that. And then we're going to be starting this fall the Kathy L. Murphy Show, which is going to be a talk show featuring all of our authors, celebrities. It's going to be more than just books. It's going to be storytellers, actors, actresses, film people. We want to show the world that no matter how a story is told, there's a story behind that story. And we want to have fun with it. We're going to have all kinds of things. Robert Waltney, who's here today, is going to be my co-host. And Mandy Haynes is going to be the producer. So stay tuned for that so subscribe to the Kathy L. Murphy channel now while you can, and click the bell icon so you can get all notifications. So thank you so much. I'm hoping is this going to be up on YouTube?
It's going to be up on YouTube by Tuesday, and people can find it there. And Kaylee's put links underneath if anybody needs them, underneath in the comments section. Thank you, Kaylee. And all the interviews are archived here on Facebook, so you can always find it here on Facebook too.
Okay.
So thank you, Kathy.
Thank you so much. We'll see you next time.
Yeah, we will. So everybody, you can join me here every Thursday at my Facebook page, interviewing fascinating people like Queen Kat, who enrich our lives with their creative gifts and compassionate hearts. And I told you about all the interviews. You can find more about me at shoresofoursouls.com or groundonecoaching.com. And next month, we'll be talking to another Pulpwood Queen. And I don't know whether you noticed all my stack of Pulpwood Queen's books that I've got. Patricia Sands. So until then, this is Kathy Ramsperger from shoresofoursouls.com, bidding you a good weekend and a great book to read. Thank you, Kathy. Bye for now.
Bye-bye. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.